Anyway, I talked about Dead Space 3 there. Josh, go on. Tell me, is it any good?
Yeah, it's good. You know, I've wrestled with that question a lot.
That's the exact same response I had.
You know, like I just have moments where after I'm done playing it and going to bed or like making dinner or something like that, and I'm thinking about the game, and I would literally have within the same thought process be like, yeah, it's good. God, I hate that game. Like and that's just kind of summarizes it. You know, there's a lot of good stuff in it, and all the good stuff is just the same Dead Space, and I think that's the biggest problem. Whenever I was enjoying it, I was also like, yeah, this feels like Dead Space 2. And then they went a little more action with it. They tried to, spice it up a little bit more and make it more mainstream. If you had trouble playing Dead Space 1 or Dead Space 2, you're going to love this game. There's so many ammo drops, so much health in this game. If you can't beat this game, you might be mentally challenged. Like, that could be the only way that you struggle with this. It is so much stuff. Like, I was playing it survival horror style, so I'm like stocking health, stocking ammo, and I get to the end. I had like 100 med packs sitting in my thing. I was like, I'm never going to use all these. What am I going to do with this? So I don't know, it takes away that aspect of it completely. The horror is almost completely gone. There's like two spots where I jumped, but the shooting mechanics are strong. You know, all of that stuff is still there. There were two gameplay-wise sections where I thought were really poorly done. It just kind of felt like Visceral Games is creatively bankrupt. They just didn't know what to do with this game.
I do feel you. I've played up to when you get to the planet. That was where I left it. Yeah, so I've played that bit at the start. In case you don't know, like, the first 7 chapters are not on this ice planet that's been advertised. The first 7 chapters are on like some sort of flotilla of spaceships above the planet.
Yeah, and that's the good part. I thought that was the good part.
It's still like, I still have some just general problems with it. You know, it's fine. It feels like Dead Space in those scenarios, but I still have a few problems with it. You know, the dialogue is awful. Literally, I've like 50 Shades of Grey reads only slightly worse.
Yeah.
Than Dead Space 3. The game looks fine. The game, you know, you're still taking limbs off aliens, which is still, it's kind of lost its thing now because you've done it for 20 hours. And now you're doing it again, and it's, you know.
Well, and that's kind of the problem, is that, you know, the stuff you're talking about, the poor dialogue and the shooting limbs off aliens, kind of used to be hidden below just the nuance of that game, because like it was basically you're playing the movie Aliens, you know, and it's that space horror that you have, and it was so nuanced and felt so different than a lot of stuff you're playing. It was able to cover up a lot of that stuff. But by now, the horror's gone. You're not scared of anything. The dialogue, because there didn't used to be a lot. Anytime Isaac's talking to someone, it was over comm. He rarely interacted with humans in those games. And now that he's interacting with them all the time, you're like, oh man, who's writing this? This is written by a 6-year-old.
Pretty much, yeah. And the story is just like, I haven't played previous Dead Spaces. I put that out there now, but I know the story. We have a story so far article up on the site. Edit it and put it up. And it doesn't make any fucking sense at all. It's just nonsense.
The end of this game,
literally garbage.
Like I said, you know, that used to all just be covered up by the fact that, like, who cares about the story? I just kind of enjoy going through this dark space by myself, isolated, with monster closets popping out at me every now and again. That was the game. And now that there is a story, and the end, like, just wait till you guys get to the end. It is Mass Effect 3 good. Like, just epic, weird, nonsensical, ancient aliens who built the pyramids. Like, I'm elaborating. That's not really what it is. But it's weird. And, like, by the end, I was just like, what am I playing anymore? This is Mass Effect 3. You made the same game. You just called it Dead Space 3.
The other, I had a couple of other points. Isaac, when you're controlling him, Isaac feels like he's moving through like a swamp. It worked in the first one because the first one was a horror game, and it kind of worked in the second one because it was sort of half horror, half action. But now they pretty much just made an action game, and you can't blame them making an action game. They make whatever game they want, but they didn't update the way the controls feel. to make it fit with an action game. So it actually feels like he's like trying to walk through glue.
Or he's Fat Albert.
Yeah, that is horrible. I have to say though, that crafting weapons is ridiculously fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I enjoy
that. The only point why I actually went, this is amazing, when I built some sort of monstrosity out of things I found lying around on this weird spaceship, and then
and you can ruin that by getting the DLC. Like anyone who buys the DLC, I really have issue with, because that's the fun part of the game. Like, if you need a better gun or something like that, you can just build one. There's shit lying everywhere, and if you literally need to buy that stuff, then you've completely disconnected from anything that's fun in this franchise.
Do you know the details of how they're doing all this microtransactional thing? Because it's very much like I think it's like a freemium sort of model. Although it's so complicated, I'm not really following it.
And you get, the best part about this is you don't even get to pick what you get. You just get, you get a weapons pack, and there's a couple guns in there, and you don't know what they are. They could be good, they could be bad. You can get, a materials pack, you don't know what it is. It could be very common, it could be rare. And so not only are you trying to break the game by buying the best stuff, you might still screw yourself over for $5 of, the med pack equipment,
It sounds like the bit that really, I think, annoyed me a little bit is you're paying for this $60, £40 game in Dead Space 3, and there's these things called, are they nanobots or something, or the little
scavenger bots? Yeah,
scavenger bots. That's the one. And you send those out to go and collect stuff, materials to build weapons or to scrap or to sell or whatever, and they will take exactly 10 real life minutes to come back and to go back to a nearest bench and give you the stuff. But you can go and buy very much like a freemium, like a Simpsons Tapped Out on the iPhone or a Farmville sort of game. You can buy
to get them to speed up, right?
Yeah, it's a coin doubler. So you can pay that money to get faster, and then you can pay money to get better weapons or better equipment. And then there's the ration boxes things in there as well. I think they're ration boxes, but they're charging you all this money on top. You can literally go into Dead Space, and in the first 20 minutes, you can spend an extra probably $40 on stuff.
You really can, and that's very true. And if this game was brutally difficult, where if it was like Dead Space 1 or 2, those games aren't Dark Souls hard, but they are challenging, and they require a lot of micromanaging of your materials. If they were that type of difficult, I might see I might see the moral objection in that. But the game's there's so much stuff everywhere that I literally am like, who's paying for this? It feels like EA came up with this idea to do this, but just didn't tell Visceral, and Visceral just put item drops in everything. So I see the dilemma. I see why people would complain or why people would protest. But at the same time, I think EA if they're screwing people, they're not doing it very well.
Well, I think for them, it's just a test case.
Yeah, and that might be.
Yeah, they started doing it with Mass Effect 3 and the multiplayer packs you could buy, and now they're doing it slightly different this time around with that coin doubler thing that makes your robot speed up faster. So I think it's just a test case for them to see how, because in the day, companies love money.
Yeah.
EA especially. EA loves money. Everyone loves money. And they're going to try and think of any way they can to make as much money out of a single title as possible.
Yeah, you feel almost like this is the horse armor trial, where it's will people pay for this even if they don't need it?
Yeah, obviously it's a little bit less crude than the just flagrant horse armor.
Yeah,
but you can see them trying to sort of they're going to get to a point where when they know what some people will buy.
Yeah, and then that's a decent argument. That's a slippery slope to go down. Now it doesn't matter because the game's so easy. But I'm sure Kwai would just love it if in Dark Souls 2, all of a sudden they get you to an impossible boss, and then they're like, oh, by the way, you can buy 4 friends to help you to beat this boss for $20.
No, man, I'll play that game for the self-flagellation. You don't play that game to enjoy it. You play that game to beat your fucking self up and feel terrible about life until you beat it when you feel like the absolute boss of the world.
Oh yeah, that's Dead Space is.
I just have a quick question for Josh before we step off Dead Space 3. Where is the franchise going, and do you want another Dead Space game?
Oh God, no! Please.
Two hardcore questions in
No,
your
because
face.
so the end of this game, the end, like by the time you get to the end of this game, it's so weird. Like just the situation that Isaac finds himself in. Because the other two games are just escape from wherever the hell you are. You're surrounded by evil aliens that are trying to break your heads off. Just get the hell out and get to safety, which is great. It's a solid premise for a game. But the end of this game is so grandiose and epic that to go the next step would have to be more grandiose and epic. Like, and it's kind of like, do you guys watch the Alien movies? Like, it's kind of like, the difference between Aliens 2 and 3 and then Aliens 3 and Insurrection, where it's like, or Resurrection, where it goes so off base that the next step would have to be whether it's Isaac or his girlfriend or the Clark guy or the Carver guy who comes with you, one of them would have to be a god to this alien race that, like, explodes from another planet and assaults the Earth. I think that's the next step that would have to be.
I think they've given us some hints because I don't know if you know, but if you look at the names of the chapters, if you read the first letter of every chapter in the game, it says "Brother Moons are awake." So obviously, I think they're hinting at other planets with markers on.
It's so bad.
Essentially, it's Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is. Like,
There's more than one, guys.
By the time you get to the end of this game, it literally could be called Mass Dead Space Effect. Like, it's goes completely in that direction. And I played Mass Effect 3. It was okay.
So basically what we're saying is Dead Space 3 is, yeah, it's all right.
If you liked Dead Space 2, but you thought it was hard, you're gonna love Dead Space 3.
Josh, do you want a Dead Space 4? That's the kicker.
No, stop it. Just stop.
You want them to take the franchise, put it in the freezer, just let it cool down,
reboot it in 10 years, exactly.
Yeah.
Do we want a Dead Space film?
No.
Alien.
Oh yeah, Alien. Yeah.
Just like if I could say something to anyone who stumbled on our podcast, stop making stupid sequels and stop making movies. We don't need them. I don't need them. Just make good games, maybe.
If we're talking to developers here, I want to talk directly to Rocksteady. Rocksteady, you need to make a Judge Dredd game in the style of Batman Arkham Asylum. Go do it.
Oh, that'll be good.
Anybody else got any messages for developers before we leave to ads?
Russ has a message from Nintendo. Make good games.
I think we have a few messages, but we just don't have time for them.
Shit ton, basically.